Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to This Just In. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. In these segments, I'll bring you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. As always, we're broadcasting from the This Just In studios on the Business Radio X network, as well as the Healthcare Now radio network. For this episode, my 230th episode, we have a very special first-time guest and good friend of mine, Josh Stuber, Chief Customer Officer from Cure for You Health. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got it. So first, where are you calling in from today?
Actually dialing in from the big city of Carrollton, Georgia. So we actually late May of this year we expanded our operations up to the West Georgia area on the heels of some record-setting growth. So we got a number of employees up in the Atlanta and West Georgia area. So here I am.
Awesome. So a little bit of background, because you are a first-time guest. So for my audience, I've known you for a long time, but for my audience, where's your background? Where'd you grow up? College? All that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally from Southern California, what used to be a small town of Marietta, California, which is now almost the next Orange County. So it's no longer a small town. But I grew up in Marietta and went to college in Menifee, California at San Jacinto College. And then made my way out east to the Destin, Florida area after college, and now in the Atlanta area. So,
very cool. Are you a surfer, dude? You sound like a surfer.
I'm not. I've tried it, but I'm afraid of sharks. So that's about it.
Cool. So tell us about your passion for customer success. I've known this perspective from you for a long time and this passion, but where'd you get it? How long have you been in this field? All that good stuff.
Yeah, good question. So I guess I've been in the customer success field before CS was popular, I guess what I say. But back in 2012, I was a project manager for a large and upcoming EMR company. And what we started to find that it would be really cool to better understand the health of our customers and where customers are in their journey, for several reasons. But I guess the main point is, and what really drives me is helping our customers to be more successful. So, yes, customer success is about, reducing churn and gaining insight into health metrics, increasing revenues, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it's all about helping our customers. So, after building out the first customer success program at that organization, I've traveled around and been very lucky to be able to help several organizations kind of build out and kick off their customer success and customer health programs. So it's been a pretty exciting ride.
Very cool. So, before we move on to customer success, it seems to be a growing strategy. Before we called it, either support or, implementation. Early in the days, I've been around in health IT for a long time. So those are some of the organizations or group names before, but and you kind of touched on this, but maybe elaborate a little bit more on customer success and obviously how important it is for an organization and how it's a fundamental philosophy that companies must embody. So talk about that for a second.
It surely is. And it's kind of funny you say that when we, back in, 2010, 2012, it was, retention managers or customer experience. And it's really kind of come into its own as its own kind of entity, right? In customer success. And, there's been entrepreneurs and guys like Nick Mehta from Gainsight and some others that have really kind of built out methodologies around customer success. And really, to your point, it's not something that one group of folks or one function in the business can own. It's got to be a holistic understanding from leadership down that customer success is something that the whole company has to buy into. And the retention and health of customers has to be something that everybody in the organization is a part of. So it's not just one function of the organization. It's got to be systemic, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. Because I've been part of now a couple of cultures that have quote unquote customer success teams or divisions, and it's certainly not just about that one team or that entity or even a strategy. It's a philosophy that companies must have, and it transcends everybody. It matters from the code that you write, to the QA teams, to obviously sales and implementation, training, support, and all the above and below. And it takes all of us and everybody. So I completely agree with you.
It certainly does. And if any of those pieces are missing, the puzzle just doesn't work, right? So absolutely.
Great point. Great analogy. So what's the funniest support call you've ever had or heard?
Oh gosh, you're going to make me answer this one. The funniest support call. This was back in my EMR days. We have a good friend of mine who was the VP of support. He got an interesting phone call and actually gave me a text message and said he'd like to transfer this call to me and said, we've got a very upset customer and I want you to handle this one. And I thought, well, okay, I'll get prepared and get ready for this. And as soon as I took over the call, I realized that this very upset practice was my father-in-law. And my father-in-law is an osteopathic physician down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I had built out all of his clinical templates and things like that. So he kind of got the white glove implementation treatment. But apparently one of his main templates that he was using daily had ceased to function properly. So I had to A, calm him down, and B, walk him through the remediation process there. So quite an interesting support call indeed.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. No, I can imagine that.
It was something.
Yeah, I guess, nowadays, also cultures are changing. So I just, even thinking now, what would be some, like a best practice? Because I think, you and I have even talked about this a little bit off air. People's demeanors have changed. When people, are much more demanding nowadays than maybe even before. And sometimes we're not as calm as we can be when we call in. We have very high expectations. We want everything immediately fixed now. What are how do you create a culture that can handle today's types of calls? Because it's very different than 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 25 years ago. People just don't have the patience they used to, it seems, and everything's immediate. I want it fixed now, and it's an emergency right now. And how do you deal with that from your perspective, in your seat?
Yeah, I guess I think about it as kind of, the what we talked about with having a passion for customer success, mm-hmm. right? So it's all about helping the customers be more successful, and you've got to have that mindset, not just from a transactional customer support perspective, but every time you work with a customer, even sales teams and growth teams, right? So as you're speaking with prospects, you have to have the kind of that helping mindset as you're working with customers. And if you start to get into that defensive mode and right. kind of defending your product or defending your services, it really just doesn't work. And that's why, as I look at kind of the leadership principles that I try to, push out to my team is, and one of those, I guess, one of my top 5 that I have kind of written on my whiteboard here is always, exuding a positive outlook at all times, right? So right. It's just, if you have that written down, and I remember a mentor of mine used to have us put mirrors in our cubicles and mirrors in our offices and have us watch ourselves in the mirror as we're communicating with customers. And it sounds so goofy.
That's excellent. No, that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah. But as I forced myself to stare at myself in the mirror as I was working with tough and difficult customers, really you start to force yourself to smile. So it's kind of embodying that vision of a positive outlook, right? So I guess I hope that answers your questions, but
excellent. Yeah, no, that's excellent. So how do you, in this day and age, recruiting and pulling top talent or just good talent? Top talent's phenomenal. If you can find top talent, God bless you. But just finding good talent, great people to work with, how do you go about that? Because it's a very difficult market. Every single story you read out there about how, or if anybody you talk to that's building a company, it's finding good people is their number one problem if they already have a decent product. So how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, I've been lucky to work for and work with some really, really talented individuals throughout my career. And And what we've been able to do is harness a lot of the network that I've built and that other employees have built here at Cure for You and other leadership members. And we've been able to kind of go out into the market and really tell everybody the cool things that we're doing at Cure for You. We've been able to be very successful in our recruiting efforts. So not only recruiting new employees, but what we're trying to do is build a team here where we hire from within and we grow our current staff to be able to move to that next level. And we've been very, very blessed to be able to do that so far with several of our folks that are moving up from, the support ranks into the implementation ranks and then into customer success, et cetera. So I think a lot of it is building on the network that we have with all the talent that we've already built in the organization and then hiring from within and promoting folks up within the ranks.
It's excellent. Yep. No, and that's it's similar to how I've personally been able to do it because it's very difficult to hire somebody. It's more of there is some certainly science to it at times of hiring the right person in the human capital strategy, but being able to pull from your background, your network is a proven best practice. And that's why it's just so critical for all of us to always be thoughtful about not only where we are, what you're doing today, but what kind of leader are you? Do people want to work with you? Are people going to follow you? And if you can build that and embody that, then you could be successful long term. Trying to build a company from scratch and not having a network to pull from would just be a massive barrier today to growing or always growing at scale. You can hire 1 or 2 people. What if you have to hire 50 people or 100 people?
Sure.
How do you do that without, recruiters? And even recruiters, they're valuable and very important at certain times, but it's also extremely expensive and there's zero guarantee. Even when they say, we'll guarantee that person, all they're doing is guaranteeing to maybe replace that person if you happen to let them go in 90 to 120 days. And then they replace that person. But, in my experience, they don't send you more top talent. You're getting kind of, we're going to give our top talent people who are paying these new fees. So it's so invaluable. And I say this because a lot of entrepreneurs listen to my radio show, and if you don't have that big network, make sure you get someone on your leadership team that has that big network, because being able to pull again, 15, 20, 50, 100 people from their past can just catapult your company so quickly, save you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, just recruiting fees and downtime. So of not being able to have positions filled. So anyhow, that's a great point, Josh.
No, Justin, I couldn't agree more. And I've seen both sides of it where it's very heavy on let's rely on this recruiting firm, and then kind of, having an organization like Cure for You that has this awesome network of professionals, and it's just so much more streamlined on the ladder. So couldn't agree more.
Cool. So now again, on the fun side, what's the best time you've ever had with a customer, or most memorable experience you've ever had with a customer?
Oh man, how about one of each? What I miss, I guess, most about COVID and kind of the way our world has changed, hopefully for the short term here, is before HIMSS and MGMA and our national conferences, we always took out a group of peers and customers that we met with for years and played some really cool golf courses around the country. So played East Lake in Atlanta and played, the Dallas Country Club and things like that. We all just went out as a group and had a good time. And I really missed kind of that golf crew that we used to go out with every year. But one of my most memorable was back in, I think it was 2015, we had a physician that was proving to be a very, very tough cookie, I guess we'll call him, up in the Bronx, a gastroenterologist. And everybody we sent up there to help him build out his clinical functionality, he would kind of boot. Yeah. So they send me, and the first thing he said to me when I walked into his office as he turned around in his chair was, "Your shoes are marking up my floor."
Oh my God.
Because my black soles in my shoes. So I said, okay. And then I showed him how to do a few cool tricks within his clinical templates. And he said, "Have a seat." And we've been great friends ever since then. So
very cool.
It was a tough start, but gained a good friend and peer out of it. So
that's neat. Awesome. That's very, very cool. So for those just tuning in, we're speaking with Josh Stuber, Chief Customer Officer from Cure for You Health this week. Excellent. So what are some of you mentioned this really briefly earlier, but what are some of your leadership principles for your customer success team or your teams in general?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm glad you asked because I'm pretty intentional about these top five leadership principles, and it's something I've carried with me, since 2010 as I started to kind of build out my management career, and I guess just the main thing is for customer success specifically is we have to build out a consistent, effective customer journey, right? And the way that we do that is through different models and touch models, high, medium, low touch models and interactions. So if we don't understand the customer journey and where the customer's at within that journey, we fail right off the bat. So that would be number one. And then number two is pretty basic. It's proactively managing customer risk, right? So, I mean, if we wait till we're seeing lagging indicators of customers that are coming up, on renewals that we don't realize they're at risk until 10 days before their renewal, we've been too late. So number two is proactively managing that customer risk. And then the one we talked about earlier a little bit was exuding a positive outlook at all times. Not always easy to do, but if you put that mirror in your cube or that mirror on your desk, it'll definitely help. Little tip for your listeners out there.
Yeah, it's great. Excellent.
I guess then a couple more that I have written down just on my whiteboard here again is embodying the vision of Cure for You at all times. It's just empowering that vision of Cure for You and what we're about in our culture, and being intentional about embodying that vision of what we're after.
That's excellent.
And then I guess lastly would be expanding our business through product knowledge and partnership with our sales and marketing teams. So not only are we here to retain our current customer base, but we're here to grow it, right? So we're here. I guess if one's in sales, we're all in sales. Is the way I kind of talk to my team about it. So we're here to also expand our current business and making sure that we're those kind of trusted advisors that customers come to when they're looking to add on solutions. So those are kind of my top five leadership principles that I go by every day, and that I hope my management team pushes down to their teams as well. Excellent.
Love it. Great. I actually wrote them all down. Perfect.
Good. That was quick.
Thank you. So, and this kind of feeds this year. You're going to be helping me launch this series around virtual care best practices and just best practices for digital health in general. So let's dive in a little bit. We've got about, 10 minutes or so left, or about 6 minutes or so left. So, in your experience, what are a few best practices for a healthcare organization to optimize their digital front door strategy?
Yeah, great question. And I think I've got some really good feedback as I travel the country now that we're allowed to travel again.
Yep.
I've been meeting with a lot of our enterprise customers, FQHCs, all specialties around the country, and I think what I'm starting to see, the number one thing is to choose a platform, not multiple solutions. And I guess the reason that I say that I'm hearing that is the patient expectations right now for self-service, access, convenience. It's really driving the need for an integrated solution. So when you're looking at disparate solutions and it's tough to navigate kind of that digital front door, you're kind of losing it off the bat there. And I think the way that I've kind of written down the two best ways to do this is to kind of fully understand and meet the needs of patients and caregivers. And I guess the basic way to do that would be do it in a way that provides the best digital experience possible. So not just for healthcare, but the consumer is becoming more and more savvy, right? So it's got to be the best digital experience possible, not just the best healthcare digital experience.
Right. Excellent point.
If that makes sense. So I think the best way to do those things very well is to really provide an intuitive solution designed around the consumer and not necessarily the organizational structure of your practice. Yep. So the way that you currently intake your patients with, the big stack of papers on the clipboard, you don't necessarily just want to take that and move that into a digital front door. You've got to rethink it, and you've got to design around the consumer. And kind of the major pain points are all about, for a patient, in my opinion, is, locating, managing, and paying for care, right?
Yeah.
So, pretty much, especially for new patients. So a new patients, they go to the web, they search for a provider, and your digital front door is the key to attracting that new patient and retaining the current patients that you already have. So again, I think you must choose a platform, not just a bunch of different solutions. Fully understand and meet the needs of your patients and do it in a way that provides the best digital experience possible.
It's excellent, my friend. Excellent, excellent. So what about, a few best practices for healthcare organizations? And again, this is of all sizes. We're not talking about, this is not small groups, medium and large. This is all different types of organizations, because I believe it's the same strategy. It doesn't matter what the size of your organization is, but talk about how to optimize their RPM procedural care strategy. So what are some of the things they can do? Because RPM is kind of top of mind and is, kind of front and center for a lot of organizations, and they're starting to research it. So what are some best practices you've seen and deployed out there for RPM?
Yeah, great question. Just last week, and the week prior, I was traveling to see some of our customers, and I went to a large rural customer up in Tennessee and started to really talk through their RPM strategy. And I think strategy is the key word there. So when you're talking about remote patient monitoring, I think number one, you got to determine what goals you have. I mean, if you come right out of the bat with an RPM strategy of let's go put some blood pressure cuffs on folks and monitor some glucose, it's just not going to work. So you've got to really determine goals that are going to drive patient engagement, and you got to identify the patient's needs, right? You got to identify groups of patients that'll benefit from remote patient monitoring. And I think it's a good idea to segment them really by their ailments or chronic diseases, and separating high risk from low risk. And the way, I guess the reason behind that and what I'm hearing is if you don't separate those and manage it, then it's less easy to track and manage that volume, right? So you've got to build your strategy around patient needs and what goals you have from your program. And then I guess you really need to choose your RPM solution and choose it carefully. What I'm starting to see and starting to hear rumblings about it in the customer space is everybody's got an RPM solution now, right? RPM is the next big thing. We've got a solution, but you've really got to make sure that the device integration is there, ensuring the platform can collect and log data, from a variety of different devices, wearables, scales, things like that, and do your homework. You want to make sure you're collecting references, right, and making sure that the platform that you choose has scalability.
Yep.
The platform, the program really needs to grow with the organization. And I guess, another big thing that Cure4You does that really I'm not seeing out there in the customer space is patient onboarding. And the reason I bring that up on this call is the number one stress point or frustration of care centers is onboarding their patients.
Right.
How do we connect our devices? How do we connect our hub in rural areas? What do we do? All that sort of thing. So we kind of take that on, and we built a service around, supporting those patients that are onboarding, walking them through onboarding their devices, et cetera. And I think that's a big differentiator, and it's been really cool for us. So yeah, again, you just really got to determine your goals, choose your RPM solution, and really identify where the patient need is to get started.
Yeah, and that's one thing I noticed about you early on in your strategy. You offer patient support at every touch and component of the platform, not just an RPM. Some people do it on the RPM
Correct.
side, and they usually charge for it. But you guys offer it at no cost, and you guys offer patient support throughout the entire journey. So whether it's digital front door, whether it's using an app, using a website, some of your quick link technology, your telehealth, you guys offer patient support, which is unparalleled. Vendors just don't do that. They may offer for pieces to what you mentioned, but no, that's significant. That's kudos to you, because it's a great strategy.
Yeah, thanks. And if you think about the kind of the entire patient journey, right, from scheduling to check-in to telehealth, drive up, messaging, payments, et cetera, RPM. If the patient gets lost in that journey, then you're failing right off the bat. So what we thought is let's go ahead and provide that service for our customers. A, it'll differentiate us, and B, we'll be wildly successful with our customers. So yeah, it's been a really neat service, and we will continue providing it.
Excellent. Great work. So in our final 45 seconds, what is your favorite place or get or be inspired? I ask this of all my guests, and it's a really cool show that we put together just about this one piece, but what's your favorite place to get or be inspired, Josh?
This is the easiest question you've asked. We are, my wife and I are big boating enthusiasts. So when we moved from Southern California to the Destin, Florida area, I'm not sure if you've ever been to the Panhandle of Florida, but we bought our first boat, gosh, back in 2004, and we've been hooked ever since. So if I'm out on the lake or in the Gulf, on floating around on a boat, that's my best place to free my mind and get inspired. So that's an easy one there.
I love it. And that's actually very similar to my answer. It's kind of where I first came up with this question is because I had, I'm on the water a lot, and it's my time to, it's where my mind lets loose. It's where I'm most clear. I breathe the best. And it's just, it's awesome. So I completely agree. Well, Josh, thank you, my friend, for joining us today. It was great to have you on air.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the time, Justin. You have a great day. You
got it, my friend. And thank you, everyone, for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedules. Please tune in weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. You can always track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio so I can respond to your comments from this show. If you missed any of this episode and want to hear more, all my shows are posted at Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, and TuneIn. I appreciate everybody's time. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.